Hello, we are the Salon Sleuths. My name is Melissa,
And my name is Leslie.
and we are two women from the Pacific Northwest. We are both curious about paranormals, spirit guides, ghosts, past lives.
We are suspicious about true crime, disappearances, and strange phenomenons. We are open to learning about the supernatural and all things we don't understand.
Together, we're opinionated with a splash of smartass. Join us to learn. And stay curious, stay suspicious, and stay open.
Follow Salon Sleuths on all major podcast platforms.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I got some
Awesome.
sun yesterday.
Ooh, did you go out on the boat?
We did, and it was hot. It was our last day when we did the LLS fundraiser. We donated 2 days on the boat of surfing lessons.
Oh, yeah.
And this was the second of those two. And so we took a family out and spent the day with them. It was super hot. I wasn't wearing a swimming suit, but I jumped in anyway because it was so hot out, and got a little pink today, but that's okay. I'll be extra tan and tomorrow probably.
Yes, you'll be great. That sitting out on a boat being exposed like that is just gets so scorching hot.
We do have a cover, over like the cabin type. I don't, it's not a cabin, but that main area you could sit underneath there and be in the shade.
Is
But
it
it was
called
just so
a
hot.
is it called a bimini hot wait,
Bimini
bimini top?
Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Yes.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you did that. I have been here taking care of my mother who had reverse shoulder surgery. So I've been in my childhood home.
Well, that's awesome. It's
Yeah.
probably nice to be like forced to slow down for a couple days,
It
get
has.
caught up on things, and
It has. Yeah.
sometimes I have to be forced to do things like that as well. So
Yes. Yes. And actually, that is a perfect way of putting it because not when I wasn't taking care of her, I've been getting caught up on work and all the things that needed to get done, like paperwork wise. And I've
yeah,
gotten so much done. So
yeah. I
yeah.
like those little moments where you're forced to do things like that. So
Me
I think
too.
COVID forced me to do that, but then I ended up not doing anything. And then you get mad because I have to go back to work and you still don't have time to get caught up. But
That's not completely true. You did do your bathroom. I guess that was kind of when you were, yeah, you
I
did
got a
your
lot
bathroom.
done, but it's just like
Not
I work,
measurable.
yeah, I work constantly. I'm always like fiddling around doing stuff, but I don't make money doing it.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like, if you're going to compare, like if Michael compares me, like he brings in the majority, obviously all the money, not majority. He does bring in all the money, and which allows me to piddle around and do things that are helping other people. They're not
Right.
always serving me. I'm helping lots of other people, but whatever.
That's good stuff. And also you do bring in a little money, by the way. And you take care of 4 kids, a house, 2 dogs, and you do home projects, which saves him money.
Well, and my son that was in trouble, he's only
Yeah.
down to 18 hours left,
Mm,
which
mm,
means he got
mm.
his Xbox yesterday because
Wow.
as soon as he got down to 20, then
Yep.
whatever he does, like he needs to now, if he wants to play today, he has to do some work. And
Yep.
however much time he spends doing that, that's how much time he gets to play until it's
Okay.
all paid off. So he's down to
Wow.
18 hours. Like he's in the home stretch.
Yeah, he is. So are
He,
you proud of him?
I'm super proud of him. And we got a
Good.
lot of stuff done. We cut down 2 trees in our backyard that were just dropping bad fruit, which then our dogs are eating and then causing laughing
Diarrhea.
issues. And yeah,
Yeah.
so those are now gone and they had to haul that away. And I mean, so there's been a lot of work and then it's too hot. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find like home inside projects for him to do. And which is nice because now we're getting cabinets clean and we're getting things that, you know,
And
nobody wants to do.
he's not complaining about this stuff constantly?
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
no, he doesn't
Wow.
complain at all.
You're a good girl. You're a good mama.
I don't know about that, but he owed me big time.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
so what are you going to talk about today?
Well,
You want to go
today I'm
first?
going to tell you a story about, well, have you heard of the Good Neighbor Center?
Yes. I
It's
don't
on
really
Greenberg
know
Road.
anything about
Okay.
it, but
Well, I found out about them when I did events at Club Sport, and we did like a warm coat drive, and we donated all our coats to them. And
mhm.
then whatever they didn't use, they then forwarded to other places downtown. So the Good Neighbor Center actually serves, it has 36 beds, and it serves 9 families at a time. And they all have a private room, and they can stay up to 6 weeks just to get back on their feet and to get settled. Like, so this is basically a homeless shelter, but it's a really nice one where they are served 3 meals a day. And they also provide like childcare. So if they're trying to go get a job, and depending on, I'm going to read you what it says. It was built in 1999, and it's been updated several times. And with dollars and the community develop block grant funds, they're the ones that support them, basically, is grant money. And in 2007, Washington County gave the building for $1 a year as long as it's going to be used as a homeless shelter for the next 20 years.
Wow, that's cool. Where are they located?
So it's right on Greenberg Road, almost across from that trampoline place. Is that, is it Sky High?
Oh, Sky High. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the families who are able to obtain stable income and meet certain criteria, they are then able to apply for the housing stabilization program. And then they have they partnership with Washington County Public Housing Authority, and they provide subsidized housing, and they have up to 9 months to like ramp up the rent in order to pay for it full price. But they give them at a lower price for 9 months until they build up until they can pay regular rent. So the families that stay there who are working hard, and they actually help build their credit, and they do all kinds of things for them in order to get back on their feet. And the families that show this like incentive to like really make it happen, then they're able to apply for this housing project subsidized rent thing.
That's
So I thought
really
that was,
cool.
it's
That's really
really
cool.
cool. And so we've done like huge events. Our friend, our friend that worked with me at the, she listens to us, I think, um, who did events with me. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So when we would have extra food from these huge events, we would pack it up, and once we've taken them downtown in just these meal boxes and passed it out to the homeless. Other times we've just taken it straight to the Good Neighbor Center, and they would take it even if it was like mashed potatoes that we didn't use for the event, where like some places will only take unopened things. They
Oh,
took
gotcha.
everything, so it didn't matter. And it was right around like close to Thanksgiving, so this is stuff that they could have used for a Thanksgiving meal. And it came from a commercial kitchen,
Kitchen.
and we
Yeah.
were a business donating it. So I think that's why they were able to take it. And we took them everything, rolls and stuff. I mean, we probably fed everybody there. So I felt really good about that. And so that's how I know about the Good Neighbor Center. And do you know anything? What did you hear about them?
Well, I feel like my mother gets like a postcard from them quite often. I feel like this is something that I've seen here at my house. Like,
Okay.
but I don't really
Well, I
know.
know
I'd have
that
to ask her.
like they get I think 15% of the money that comes in is actually from like private donations. And if you go to their website, they actually tell you a list of things that they constantly need. And of course they're always looking for money, but majority of what comes in is from grants and other things that they apply for. But it is helping like basically 9 families get back on their feet. And sometimes, they have to go to like drug rehab or what, like outside. I don't know how that works. Like
Right.
check in, but you're like checking in during the day.
Outpatient or
Yeah,
inpatient.
yeah,
Yeah.
outpatient stuff. So they do support families and those sorts of things just because they realize that kind of comes with the territory of being homeless. So I think they offer so many different kinds of support. So this brings me to the story I'm about to tell you. And it's very sad. So I'm talking about this too because one of my clients who came in, she is really interested in women that murder, not just men. And she just finds it more interesting that women are able to do that kind of stuff when we just typically think it's a man. And she gave me a specific case that she wanted me to talk about, but that one's a little bit more involved. And so I thought I'm going to wait until I have more time to research that one in order to tell the story, which I will mess it up anyway because I have a terrible memory and I can't remember details. But this one's kind of simple. It's really terrible and it's super sad. But this was on August 14, 2012. Jessica Dutro and her boyfriend, Brian Kennedy, they actually were living at the Good Neighbor Center. They were, and I don't know what week they were in because they only can stay for 6 weeks. So I have no idea where they were in this process, but they called 911 on this day. People had come to the Good Neighbor Center, the police and fire and everybody showed up at this shelter, and their son, who was 4 years old, who had just turned 4 years old the day before, was unconscious, and he was collapsed and unconscious. And they lived there. They had an older daughter who was 7. They had a 2-year-old son and a newborn. And like I said, this was the day
Wow.
after his 4th birthday. So this little guy was only 4 years old. And they took him to the hospital. He was put on life support. And what they realized that he had trauma to his abdomen, which then ripped his intestines. And for the last 2 days, it's been leaking into his gut, which then I think is septic. Went septic and basically died because of that infection.
Oh
Because he
gosh.
sat with the ripped intestine for 2 days, which means this happened the day before his birthday. So for those 2 days, he obviously was in a ton of pain. But these kids were also told to be quiet, to, they would always get a licking, is what the oldest daughter would say. If they were misbehaving, they would get a licking. One thing that was brought to their attention was on Jessica Dutro's page, she had written a message to her boyfriend. Now, why do people put messages to people on Facebook?
Thank you. Right.
Okay,
What do you
because
think?
she could just say it to them versus putting it out there. Well,
Correct.
basically, she was saying that he was walking and talking like he was gay. She didn't say gay, but she's like it. And she's like, and he needed to work on Zachary. So this was leading up to when this injury had happened. So apparently,
So
she thought
the dad needed to work on him.
So I don't believe this was the father. I could be wrong, but I
Okay.
believe he was just the boyfriend. I don't know if he was the actual father of this child. Actually, I take that back. I'm pretty positive he wasn't, but their infant was hers and his.
Okay.
So the 3 children I believe were from somebody else. So basically, she was saying that her son is walking and talking like he's gay and he needed to work on it for him. And the kids said that they are regularly beat by both of them, basically. And let's see, he was taken off. The day he was taken off life support, the mother Googled or went on and did some search. It may not be Google, but she did a search for anger management, for parenting classes. She also searched for free stuff and sex with strangers. So
Okay.
she wasn't too worried
Okay.
about her anger management because there were other things that she was looking for as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a weird last one to throw in there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Every article I read, they was like, oh, and she also was looking for sex with strangers. I'm like, oh, that's what I'm thinking about when I'm trying to save
Yeah.
my son.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and assault. But let me tell you what she was charged with: 1 count of murder, 5 counts of murder with abuse, and 2nd-degree assault. So she pleaded guilty. And
To a lesser
um,
charge, though, right?
basically, yes. And it's just really sad. So the boyfriend, Brian Kennedy, he admitted he kicked the boy in the stomach because he wanted to take his shoes off before he sat down to watch TV.
Wait,
Um,
wait.
yes.
He wanted the little boy to take his shoes off before
No,
he
the little
said
boy wanted to take his shoes off before he sat down to watch TV.
it.
He apparently didn't want him to take off his shoes, so he kicked him in the stomach. And the jury listened to an audio recording by the 7-year-old sister, and she explained how the mother and Kennedy hit and punched Zachary until he got dead, is what she had said. She explained how they were often hit for not being good. So after, like right before they called 911, he was actually placed into the shower because he was lethargic and he was basically like collapsing. So she thought she would try to wake him up by putting him in the shower, and that didn't work. And this is all coming from the sister, I believe. And oh, sorry, let me go back too. He wet himself. That's why she put him in the shower. But then he was also like lethargic and like collapsing at the same time. So they put the boy's limp body in the shower to kind of wake him up, to clean him up before they called 911. So he went to, when he went to the emergency and they were looking at him for his injuries, they also noticed he was covered with bruises, which then the hospital then took the other children to check them. And at the hospital, they noticed the younger brother, who was only 2, had 5 broken ribs. And they were all at various stages of healing, but they all happened at 2 different, times. So they could see that, certain ribs were already healed at the same time.
Oh my
And then there were other
gosh.
broken. So the little boy, 2 years old, had 5 broken ribs.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the little girl, who's only 7, told the nurse, "At least I have other brothers." So she got 25 years and let's see, 25 years, and let's see, Zachary, let's see. So Dutro, her family now takes care of the other 3 children, which I was trying to do the math. If this happened in 2014 and the girl was 7, how old would she be now?
Well, that was 6, 7 years ago. So she's 14.
Okay. Which is super sad because that means she's, a freshman in high school. And I don't know where that family lives, but they
Yeah.
could be local still, which is super sad. And let me see if there's anything else. Oh, the boyfriend only got, I believe, 14 years because he testified against the girlfriend. Even though he was the one who actually kicked him, killed
Yeah.
him, it was basically on the orders of her. But she was the mother who didn't protect her children against that monster. So I don't know if it's because she's the mother or because she ordered her boyfriend to,
Okay.
take care of it because he was gay.
So
He
I
was
have a
4.
question. I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
So what you're saying is he was kicked and beat, but then it was a couple days later when he went down, because you said he'd been leaking and doing all that.
Yes. So I believe the day before his birthday, this thing happened. And
Okay.
then it was torn in his abdomen. So it had been leaking, and he's basically got this infection for 2 days. On that second day is when he peed himself,
Okay.
where she puts him in the shower, and he's super lethargic. He's like collapsing. He's not doing well, obviously. And then they call 911. And at
Okay.
that
So
time,
the
it's too late. They can't save him. It's so bad
yeah.
that they're now like, okay, let's look at the other kids. And I don't know, they didn't really say if the daughter had anything, but definitely the 4-year-old, the 2-year-old, and the infant was untouched. So actually, the article did say that the infant was untouched, which makes me believe that maybe the girl might have had something as well. But she was old enough to learn, like, you don't mess with mom and dad or
Right.
mom and boyfriend
Right.
because you better. And like, how did this all happen in this? Like, I mean, the Good Neighbor Center is a decent sized place, but I mean, I could probably hear my neighbor yelling.
Right.
Like, they were probably just taught to be very quiet from the very beginning. Like,
Yeah.
it's super sad.
Ugh.
Anyway, I was just thinking, if that happened in 2014 and he's only in there for 14 years, he's like halfway done,
Oh. Yeah.
which is super sad. It's sad that like something happened in a facility like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad that it happens anyway, but to be in a place where like they're trying to help people and to improve their lives, and then when right under their noses there's abuse happening.
And it just makes me think that so many times those people that are in those situations were raised in situations like that. So
Well, I think
comes
that could
from a
be, but
long
now,
line of
which is scary because now her parents are watching the children. So if that's
right.
true, they
Right.
could also be in the same similar situation as she was growing up, if that's the case.
Jeez. Well, was
Oh,
there
and I think
any?
she was only 25 years old and having these four kids.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. And now you're homeless and you're just frustrated. And who knows if they're on drugs or what.
Is
Like,
there any evidence that she was also beating them, or was it just
no, I think they both did. It said that
okay?
the daughter said that they would get a licking.
Okay.
And it wasn't just from the boyfriend, but I think he was the one that ultimately kicked him in the abdomen and caused this to happen.
Oh my gosh.
But the baby, 2 years old, having five broken ribs,
Seriously.
that is just
Seriously.
terrifying. It's like, well, and I think, I mean, I would guess that maybe those volunteers would have to be mandatory reporters. Did
Yeah.
they see bruises? And I mean, they said they were covered with bruises.
Was this summer months or winter? I don't remember what you
So
said.
this happened on August 14th.
So it was summer. So they would have like typically shorts and
Yeah.
t-shirts on and not be
But then like, I remember when my boys were little, their legs were covered
bruises.
in
Yeah.
bruises,
Yeah.
constantly fighting. And I mean, they were all either
Yeah.
self-inflicted or to each other. But
Right.
I don't know.
And I guess with the thing that the ER has and the doctors have is they can look and see how deep those are, and
Yes. And to
whereas
see how long ago and like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Which
whereas
is, I
you and
think that's
I
why,
looking at a kid who, just has some bruises, you're like, well, that's normal. Where'd you get that? Oh, I fell off the playground. Because, they're
right.
also told to do those things. So
Yeah.
they cover it
It's
pretty well.
sad.
Or I fell or, whatever. Like,
Yes.
that's just,
Well,
it makes me
it's just
sad
sad.
when there's kids, when it's
Totally.
kids.
Well,
Like,
and they were so little. Like it wasn't like a teenager who could try to get away or
yeah,
do
defend
something,
himself,
but yeah,
herself.
it was sad. I just hope that the other kids are doing well now. And, I mean, that 7-year-old's old enough to know what happened, and
Yeah.
luckily she's got other brothers, so it's okay, I guess.
Oh, well, that's just a 7-year-old saying that. I'm sure now that she's older, she doesn't think that.
Yeah.
Oh, poor thing.
Well, and then yesterday when I was on the river, I was looking at Forest Park because where we have to surface all the way down an industrial area.
Yeah,
And Forest Park is huge, right? Like it's
right,
this park. I mean, it's not even a park, it's like woods.
right.
And then I started looking. It says it's 5,100 acres. Well, then when I looked at it, it doesn't look like that many miles. But when you're looking from the river, it looks like a lot. I mean, it is
It's a
big
lot.
for
It's
it is.
huge.
It's a lot. And there's over 70 miles of trails. But there's all kinds of history to that park, like throughout all these years, because I don't think it was established as a park until June 24th, 1876. And they actually tried to develop on certain parts of the forest park, but because the ground is unstable, they weren't able to. So then
Oh,
that's why it's just like this park. But there's all kinds of murders that happened in there. So
yeah.
I'm actually kind of excited to research a little bit more because I do remember like the Forest Park Killers.
Yes.
And then every time I mentioned it, people didn't know what I was talking about. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I remember like a series that happened in there. And it didn't seem like that long ago, but there's actually a few different stories that go with Forest Park. So I might
So
look
I
into that
think
as
I
well.
think that I researched it. I'm not sure that I did a story on it, but there was actually a couple back
Yes.
in the 40s or 50s
Well,
that were found.
it's,
That was kind of like the first
yeah.
murder in the park. But then
Yeah.
there's been lots of people that have been murdered and dumped in the park. So it's kind of like whether you how do you want to classify how the park was involved, right? Whether it was being dumped or the murder actually happened in the park. Say it's big, but it's not very big. It's huge because it actually
It
goes from
is.
downtown Portland all the way to Hills, like kids that go to that go to school in Hillsborough and that's a
Yeah,
long
it's
ways.
huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. And the other thing is like they have like herds of elk that go through there that nobody will
Yeah.
ever see because it is so huge. Then like I actually took a video of it when I was on the river yesterday because it's just massive trees. And it goes up and over the hill all the way to the zoo and further out. Like I mean, it goes forever. Like I mean, that would be the perfect place to commit a crime.
Well, and that's your point is well taken, because it's really from downtown to rural, Hillsborough, North Plains, Helvetia, kind of that area. So because it how do I say this? It goes on the hilltop, right? So it's, for those of
Right.
you who
Well,
don't
it goes,
understand it,
it goes
it's kind of
Portland, St. Helens, Scappoose,
correct.
Beaverton, Hillsborough, like
It's like a mountain
Forest.
range, kind
Yes,
of.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just trees.
Yes. Yeah. And
And
gullies and little
yeah,
tributaries and little
well, it said
streams.
70 miles of trails. I'm like, are you sure that's all? I mean, like maybe they just haven't developed trails all the way through and out. And I know that lots of people have gotten lost up there, and
Well,
you could
that
get
is
lost up in there for days. Like,
right. And
really?
that's kind of the deal why it would be so hard, is because the whole thing is not populated with trails. So
Right.
there is only 70 miles of trails winding through there. And I got to say, the majority of them are towards the front, towards downtown Portland. And so if you take into account how sparse they get towards the
Yes.
rural areas of the park, and we're not talking park like Central Park, like we're
No.
talking,
Oh, I was going to say this is bigger than Central Park. I did write
yeah,
that down.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, they were saying they were like, oh, I wonder, but they did say it was definitely bigger than Central Park. I wrote that down somewhere. Um, yeah, and we talked about this on Alyssa McCran when she went missing up in Multnomah Falls.
Yes.
Like she could have taken one of those trails, which looks like a trail, but it's actually water runoff.
Right.
And it looks like a trail. So when you're up there running, you could actually get on one of the, which would be considered like a single track,
Right.
but it's not actually a trail. So you can easily get fully lost up there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a, I
And
actually
never
wrote
be
it down.
found,
Yes.
because people aren't like climbing down into these, and quite frankly, in a park like this, they don't want you. They say stay on the path. So there's
Oh, yeah. You know what? I was not going to talk about this yet because I had Facebooked a couple of people regarding the prostitutes that were found.
yeah.
They did find the guy who did it. His name was Todd Allen Reed. There was a direct DNA match on him. He got 3 life sentences. And I actually reached out to a couple of her friends that commented, oh my gosh, we were such good friends. I really loved Alexandria. Her name is Alexandria Ison. They call her Alex. And I even found the people that she was staying with when she went missing. And some of her really good friends. So I did message a few people, and one lady even said I was his next victim. Like there was something with her living in like off of Burnside, which is right next to all of this,
Right.
and how he had come to her house, and like she could have been his next victim. She was like, so I did message her. I haven't heard back from her yet, but I think I was waiting. Now I remember because I have a terrible memory of why it took me so long, because I was waiting to hear back from this lady who hasn't even looked at it yet. So
It's okay. It's all right. We're giving a prelude. This is how
Okay,
our minds work.
Oh
This
my
is how it's
God.
like an advertisement. It's like you're advertising.
We told most of the story already, but
Commercial break.
oh
What's coming next?
yeah,
Well,
I was like, go ahead.
I have a local story for you too.
Oh, good. Tell me.
That is actually called the Oak Grove Jane Doe. And this ties into Forest Park because it's the Willamette River. So
Yes.
anyone who's from here, we've got Forest Park, and it runs along the Willamette River that feeds from the ocean, right? But the Willamette River goes quite a ways inland, obviously. And this Jane Doe, I don't actually know why she's called the Oak Grove now that
Because I believe she was found in Oak Grove, which is on the other side of the river, like right along the water.
Where at? In
So like Milwaukee.
Okay.
And then there's Oak Grove, so it's right on the other side of Milwaukee. Or like is that right, Milwaukee? Like I know what stores over there, and there's like a bunch of dealerships, but yeah,
so that would align. However, here's the deal with this. First of all, I used a bunch of Wikipedia stuff. Coin6 has covered this by Chelsea Wicks. So if you want to go check it out, but let's back up. April 12th of 1946. So this is quite a ways back. A woman's torso was found in the Willamette River. Now, where my research says she was found was south of Dunthorpe, which is right near Wisdom Light Moorage. Do you know where that is on the river?
Mm-mm.
Since you know the river really well. So it's just south of Dunthorpe, which isn't quite as far
I'm trying to think of
down as
south. Never eat
towards Lake
soggy.
Oswego.
Oh, so
I
that's not
mean, I
even
don't,
near Oak Grove at all. So
right. That's why I
yeah.
was saying
Hmm.
that. I'm not sure, but now you'll hear
Well,
other
maybe if
places.
it's on the other side of the river, maybe that's Oak Grove. I have no idea.
Yeah, and you're gonna find there were other parts of her. So
Oh, okay.
they just found her torso, and it was wrapped in burlap and it was floating near that Wisdom Light moorage. And this was dubbed the Wisdom Light murder for a while back in 1946. The following day, however, so April 13th of 1946, her arms and one thigh was found, and it was found against the locks on the Willamette Falls, 6 miles down the river. So that's quite a ways, right?
Yes.
But as you and I know, that river runs pretty swiftly.
Yes.
And both hands and a foot had been severed, but were still missing. And then in July, so a few months later, in July of 1946, the same year, the second thigh was found near Oregon City, and additional clothing was found in the Clackamas River in September.
Okay, were they cut off or was it the one where it
Yes.
could break off? Okay.
Yeah, no, they were cut off very cleanly. In fact, that's one of the things that the pathologist, when I get to that, said it was a very clean job. They clearly knew where the joints were to take these limbs off. But in September, fragments of human skull were found near the Willamette Falls as well. In October of 1946, the victim's severed head was found in the river near where the torso was found. The hands and the feet were never found. So this body had been cut up pretty cleanly, pretty well. A pathologist from the University of Oregon's medical school confirmed that the victim was middle-aged Caucasian woman between 40 and 50 years old. It had been reported that she was much younger, but that became untrue when the pathologist checked out her remains. In 2004, the murder was actually formally reopened, but this does remain a cold case. The reason I'm telling you about this is there may be somebody who knows something. You know, this was a long time ago, and a lot of these people have died. But I'm going to tell you the worst part is that her belongings and remains were lost by law enforcement in this time. Now, I'm going to tell you about her personal effects. In the bag of personal items, it was also in a burlap bag tied with telephone wire and string. There was
where was the bag found?
Well, they were found all over, remember, but the Clackamas River is where the clothing was found.
Okay.
I know.
I don't know where that is.
Well, it's off of the Willamette River. So the Clackamas River feeds into the Willamette River.
Well, the thing I was just looking up, it says the Willamette River flows south to north. Could she have been put in at the falls and then floated?
Yes.
Okay.
So they actually are speculating, but no one knows. There's no proof of any of this stuff, but they think that it's possible that she could have been dumped in 2 different places or been dumped around. So they do say that they think maybe the personal items, the overcoat, the long underwear, and a dark sweater were maybe dropped on the Clackamas River at a separate time. Okay. And so this is the part that I think we should take note of. For me, I feel like this is a key. Obviously her items, but that the burlap had been wrapped with rope and wire and contained sash weights. Well, I was like, what is a sash weight? You know those weights on double hung windows that when you pull the window up, they weight down the strings?
Yes.
So they're an old thing that in the 40s you would find. But I'm like, okay, sash weights? Like, now 2 of the bags had sash weights weighing them down. So somebody had a lot of sash weights hanging out
that are missing from their windows.
Exactly. Or they were a window, construction worker, worked on
So they
windows,
did this
owned
inside of a house, like they cut them
not
down because
necessarily. Maybe
really?
maybe their place of work has a bunch of sash weights.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
I
Well, I meant like it didn't happen outside and then somebody, right?
no,
Like could they
they
have
did
done
not.
this?
They
Yeah.
did not cut her up probably on the side of the river, because it seems that it's potential that she was brought there in bags, that they
Yes.
didn't cut and dismember her there on the side of the water. And yeah, they had to have, they had a bunch of sash weights, right? Which I feel
Yeah.
like that's one of the keys that I want to know about. Like, okay, who's connected to this case that would have access to a bunch of sash weights? But here's where I also think we can find some clues. Is oh, before I go on to that, they did make plaster casts of the footprints in the mud near where her torso was found. And it was also estimated that the torso had been placed in the water only 36 hours before it was discovered. So this was not like a really old torso body parts that maybe had been there for a long, long time. It was pretty recent. And the lower torso had burn marks similar to the patterns indicated that somebody had used a blowtorch on her. And so maybe she was tortured. They don't say that she was potentially burned after she was dead, but I also could say, well, maybe they tried to like burn the body and that didn't really work. And so then they went to plan B, but nowhere does it say that. It says that maybe she was tortured. So there must have some reason to believe that those were pre-death burns, but I have no idea. The woman also wore dentures, and her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. The dismembering, as I said, was very clean and at the joints, and then possibly they used a saw to take her limbs off at the joints. Now, there were a few leads that I'm actually not even going to go into that were investigated, but there was never any way to corroborate or decide that those were credible. So I'm not even going to go into those. But the one thing I am going to go into is that at the same exact time, a woman by the name of Anna Schroeder, who was married, she had been married twice. This was her second husband. She was married to a railroad worker. She went missing. And it turns out that Anna had an affair with a Portland Police Lieutenant, William Brenning, and some years back. And she had this affair with him for a while. And he had said, look, I'm not leaving my wife and kids for you. And so she kind of got angry, and it doesn't really say exactly, but they got into a fight. And his gun went off, and he jumped on her with both of his knees and broke a few ribs. She was arrested, and she ended up suing the police bureau for alienation of affection.
Wait, why was she arrested?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
But he was a police lieutenant. Bum, 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 bum.
So he found something to
Well, I'm sure he called and said, this is Lieutenant da da da. You need to come get this crazy ass chick who's, whatever.
And then she sued for, what was it? What did you say?
Alienation of affections.
Mm.
Yeah. So the lieutenant,
right?
The lieutenant actually lost his job.
Wait, how old was she? Because it says the person that was missing.
Yes.
Was between 40 to 50, 5'2", 5'4", and 125 pounds. She
matches all of that.
So where did you find her, like in the missing people, like stuff?
She's part of this case. So if you dig deeper, there is a woman by the name of, oh gosh, she's a crime writer. I guess I didn't write her name down, but the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office reopened the case in 2004. And in 2017, an interview with the Clackamas County Sergeant, John Krumecker, he basically said, look, I have no credible evidence that this could be Anna Schroeder, but I don't have any evidence that it's not.
Well, they
So
don't have any information. They don't have the stuff anymore
they
to
don't
even
have any
like
stuff.
test
Now,
it.
who would make that stuff just disappear?
Yeah, I wonder.
Uh-huh.
Hey, did that lieutenant, did he have a farm? Do you know anything about him?
Don't
Because it
know.
says the burlap bags were actually, it says wrapped in feed bags, which could be the burlap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who would have a feed bag? Somebody who has chickens and cattle and right?
Well,
I mean,
growing up, my grandparents always had that. They
yeah,
didn't have animals, but they had a garden and they always had
that's true.
feedbags and all
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
Probably back in
They
1946,
would they would
everybody had that kind of
dry,
stuff.
yeah, they would dry stuff in the feed bags. And
Okay.
now I told you that she sued the Bureau,
Yes.
right, for alienation of affections. And she ended up representing herself. And it was quite the brouhaha, the scandalous thing where she's representing herself. She
I like her.
actually, yeah, I know. She actually won, which
Good
is
for
kind of cool.
her.
And she
And
threatened,
the wife probably knew now.
right, exactly. She actually threatened to expose the Portland Police Bureau with what she called their little dirty secrets. And she said she had a black
Ooh.
book that had all of this information in it, right?
That's what killed her right
Yep.
there.
Yep. So she, even after the lawsuit, was unhappy with the Portland Police Bureau, and she said she was going to expose all this. Well, then she apparently told people she was going to leave and go to Minnesota. So you have, hey, I'm threatening, and now I'm leaving for Minnesota, and then poof, she's gone. She
Yeah.
went missing and she's never been seen again. And now the only evidence is the body description and her skull description and all of the things that they found, but all of the evidence has been lost.
They know that's her.
How convenient.
Hey, that lieutenant, is he still around?
I do not know. He would have been 50 in the 40s, so I doubt it.
Yeah.
He would probably be quite old. Let's see. Yeah, he'd be over 100 now. So no, he's not alive.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think about the children and grandchildren of him and what they may or may have, because he did have at least a son or child. I don't know that I think I may be making that up that he had a son, but he definitely had a child. What information is there? Did he ever tell stories? Were there ever stories told about this? Somebody knows something probably still.
Yeah.
And I do believe in corruption. I'm not genuinely, I think, a suspicious.
Well, and I don't think
but
something like that probably didn't happen. Like not one person did it.
Correct. There's several people, right,
that got involved with that one.
And where did the Sash Weights come from? Like you had to have a lot of Sash Weights. Those aren't very heavy. So you had to have a lot of Sash Weights to sink a body, I would say.
Gosh dang.
Right? I can tell you're like looking things up on the internet.
I am. I was like, what? And I haven't even found where you got those two connected. So I'm pretty impressed.
Really?
There.
Oh, look at you.
Like you were like, I don't have anything. Like you have lots. What are you talking about?
You're so
that's crazy.
Right.
I had heard about the Oak Grove, but I didn't dive into it like that. And so that's super interesting. And like, I sent you the link to this, you probably already had it, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, but it shows like her clothes that were probably in that bag that you were saying. Okay, why would she have, okay, let's think about this for a minute. She had what she was wearing, but she had a bag of stuff. So was she leaving to go and then this happened? Like, why would she have a bag of things?
She potentially didn't have a bag of stuff. They potentially put a bag of her stuff together.
Okay.
And then dumped it. I mean,
because it looks like a lot of stuff. There's like a dress, a skirt, a jacket, like you said, a bunch of things. That's a lot to have in a bag if you were just killed like in your own, like, or kidnapped from your own house.
Right. But if her body was was naked when it was cut up and everything. They took the clothes off of her and they packed
Okay.
her all up.
Yeah,
So
I
'cause it said,
suppose.
yeah. So I did think it was a lot of clothes for her to be wearing, long underwear. I'm not sure what, I mean, I know
Well,
it's
if
the
she was
40s,
found
but
in April 13th, this could have happened.
that's
And
true.
in
Still
Portland, it's
rainy.
not very warm in April. So
Yeah.
this happened even before that. So it was probably cold. She was probably had a
Yeah,
lot of stuff on. I don't
that is
know.
true. That is true. Yeah. So very interesting, huh? But I think that probably what they're
There
thinking
was
too
corruption.
is, yeah, I think there was. I'm
Well, and
I'm
no wonder that stuff's
suspicious,
missing. Yeah.
right?
You
I'm
should be
suspicious.
suspicious.
Shouldn't I?
You should
I
be
think I
very
should.
curious about this.
Well, you know what that means.
Yes,
It's the end of the show. We
it
have to tell
is.
everyone. What are we going to tell them, Leslie?
What is your tagline, Melissa?
It
Stay,
stay curious.
stay, stay
Stay
suspicious. Oh God. Stay suspicious.
suspicious and
And
stay open. Yes.
good job, girl.
Right? That is important.
My God, that was a crazy one. That was good for just